It's a brand known for its soda, its bold advertisements, and its iconic rivalry with Coca-Cola. But did you know that Pepsi once had a military force so powerful it was ranked the 6th largest in the world? Yes, you heard that right, Pepsi. A company known for its sugary drinks and catchy jingles, now linked to one of the most astonishing stories in history. This is the untold tale of how Pepsi ended up with a military force that rivaled entire nations. The year is 1959, and the world is in the middle of the Cold War, a time when global tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union were at an all-time high. Every nation was vying for influence, and businesses were no different. In the UST, American companies were looking for ways to expand their reach across the globe, and Pepsi-Cola had a vision far beyond just selling beverages. The Cold War wasn't just about nuclear arms and espionage, it was also about soft power, the ability to influence other nations through culture, diplomacy, and trade. Pepsi, seeing an opportunity in the Soviet Union, wanted to carve out a piece of the Soviet market. But there was one major obstacle. Pepsi needed to make a bold move to get the attention of the Soviet government. In 1959, Pepsi made an agreement with the Soviet government that would change the course of both their futures. Pepsi-Cola would enter the Soviet market, but this deal was unlike any typical trade agreement. To facilitate the trade and ensure smooth operations, Pepsi's CEO at the time, Donald M. Kendall, struck a deal with Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev. In return for Pepsi's soft drink shipments to the USSR, Pepsi agreed to accept Soviet vodka as payment. But there was a catch. Instead of just exchanging goods, Pepsi's deal with the Soviet Union included something else. The USSR was willing to trade something far more valuable: military equipment. Yes, you heard correctly. Pepsi wasn't just receiving bottles of vodka. The USSR offered Pepsi military assets as collateral. In return, Pepsi got access to trade across the Soviet Union and access to some of the most powerful military equipment in the world. What started as a simple transaction soon evolved into something much bigger. The military equipment Pepsi received included Soviet warships, tanks, submarines, and other heavy artillery. As odd as it may sound, Pepsi was now in possession of a military force that made them one of the most formidable entities on Earth. Pepsi took ownership of 17 Soviet warships, including a fleet of submarines. In fact, these ships and tanks were so numerous that at one point, Pepsi became the world's 6th largest military force, second only to the United States, the Soviet Union, and China. Can you imagine it? A corporate giant, better known for refreshing drinks, now had tanks, submarines, and warships at its disposal. Pepsi wasn't just a soda company anymore, it had a private army. But how did Pepsi, a brand built on marketing and advertising, suddenly find itself owning warships? The answer lies in the shifting nature of the Cold War. By the 1970s, Pepsi was looking for a way to enter Eastern Europe, a market that was still mostly closed to Western products. But the deal they made with the USSR wasn't just about military might, it was also about diplomacy and influence. By holding these military assets, Pepsi could negotiate from a position of strength. It was a move that allowed them to gain ground in a market dominated by socialist economies. Their relationship with the USSR was not simply a commercial transaction, it was a strategic power play. Pepsi's military acquisition wasn't without its challenges. As the years went on, tensions in the Cold War reached new heights, and the Soviet Union began to break down in the late 1980s. The once solid grip that Pepsi had on the Eastern European market started to slip. By the early 1990s, Pepsi realized that maintaining its military assets wasn't going to be sustainable, especially with the Soviet Union collapsing. Pepsi needed to pivot and focus back on its core business of selling beverages. But instead of just abandoning their fleet of military vehicles, they made a bold move in 1992. Pepsi sold its military assets to the Russian government for $3 billion worth of stock in the Russian oil company Sibneft. And just like that, Pepsi's military might was gone. The iconic soft drink company had once possessed a fleet of warships and tanks, but now it was back to focusing on what it knew best, selling soda. However, this strange chapter in Pepsi's history is a testament to the wild, unpredictable nature of the Cold War era. Pepsi's military history may have faded into obscurity, but the fact that a soda company once owned a fleet of warships is a story that's hard to forget. In the end, Pepsi's story is more than just about selling drinks. It's a testament to the unexpected, to the bizarre turns that history can take. From soda cans to submarines, from marketing strategies to military operations, Pepsi's surprising venture into the world of global power remains one of the most extraordinary business stories ever told.